This is what Keith Peterson was doing. Dominic Cruz was over here, right? And the fight's over here. I swear I saw him doing this. UFC news to fall asleep to, episode 3 is here. And I hope you're ready to fall asleep. And I want to address, because some people have brought it up and they've been feeling a little guilty about what they're doing when they listen to this. You don't have to be falling asleep. You could listen to this as you wake up. You could listen to this as you're commuting, as you're putting the dishes away, as you're taking the dishes out. You could listen to this. You could pop your earbuds in as you are about to sit down for dinner, as all you sit across from your family, each with their own respective devices, all totally, completely ignoring each other and eradicating the household of any type of cohesive family time together whatsoever. There's different ways in which you can consume this episode. And if you like this format, please let me in the algorithm know by liking, commenting, hyping, sharing, tagging your favorite moments, subscribing, all that kind of stuff. Because episode 2 didn't do so good. And now I'm like, do people like it? Are we going to get to episode 8? Also, I feel kind of weird on a Thursday, 5 entire days later after the event, talking about the event. I kind of feel like, that's just one of the things I'm going to have to deal with, I guess, with these being on Thursdays, that it's quite a while after the event. So I feel like there's a lot I want to touch on about the event, and it's probably going to take up the whole video. So I don't know if I'm going to, because that's something I kind of thought about during the last episode. I caught myself basically talking about, what the heck was that episode about? Oh, I was talking about Makhachev and his potential matchups like the whole time. And then I was like, wait a minute. This isn't even like UFC news. This is like one UFC story or narrative that I'm sticking with for a whole hour. So I felt kind of bad. So I'll try my best, going forward to actually talk about news, things that have been coming up throughout the week and drama, stuff that's going on like that. But sometimes it's just going to be like one particular thing. I want to start off by, and by the way, I think this is the first time I've done this. Usually I kind of stick with main events and big things. And I kind of I'm not even going to talk about a prelim fight and this and that. I'll leave all the nerds to all that kind of stuff. But I left notes on every fight. After the events, I went through and I watched the event in its entirety all over again, every single fight. Well, I wish I could have watched it in its entirety. But Paramount's doing this new thing where they don't upload the event in its entirety. And it's very annoying. If there's anybody out there right now watching that knows how to watch the UFC events in their entirety now, let me know. Because ESPN used to do that. You'd be able to watch the individual fights and then clips and the whole event from start to finish, walkouts, commentary in between, whatever. DC saying something stupid when he didn't know his mic was on, whatever it is, crazy, like from start to finish, just not a second edited out. And I know it's like that on Fight Pass too, I believe, but Paramount didn't do it. And I tweeted at them the other day, which, that's not going to get anywhere. Twitter's pay to play now too. You got to pay them. They literally sent me an email saying something like, not like I'm special. They didn't send something directly to me like that, but it was like a thing saying, hey, you want more visibility? You want your posts and your views, your videos to get more views? Then buy the check mark. And I'm like, what the heck, man? Is anything organic anymore? But I watched every single clip. And we got Tainara versus Brazil. And I just wanted to say that, and some of this, if you watch the Moss and Jesse show, you're pretty much going to hear me talking about the exact same points that I made on there because I have the same notes that I'm going off of. It's just a little bit of a different vibe, doing it by myself. But it was Brazil and Tainara. And I just wanted to say that I was happy that Brazil got her butt kicked in that fight. She was absolutely hopelessly outclassed. I'm talking about like how Charles Oliveira brutalized and outclassed Max Holloway over 5 rounds. It wasn't like Tainara had her moments, or it was a flash knockout in the first round, or Brazil made a mistake and she got choked out in the first 12 seconds. She absolutely humiliated her over the course of every round. And I liked it because in the very, very first seconds of the fight, opening up the fight, Brazil goes for the, like, oh, hey, let's be good sports women and let's high five. And they went, and it's crazy. It's like, I know people have been doing this forever, but I had just seen it. And I don't know if you guys have had as well. I was on Instagram or something. It might have been YouTube Shorts. And it was another promotion. I don't even know what it was. And these two ladies went for a high five. And the one lady just pulverized the other one with the kick. Like, she basically faked her out. And I don't even know if they touched hands. But she went for the glove touch. The other one went. And then, like, right away, boom, she kicked her, knocked her out, won the fight. And I was like, that is disgusting. I don't like to see that. And that's what Brazil did. She went for the high five. Tainara went for the high five. They touched her. Boom! She threw a kick. And, I mean, I guess, unfortunately for her, she didn't have enough of that hot mustard behind it. And, you know, that was her little highlight. But it ended up being more of an instant karma highlight for her. And Tainara just outclassed her. And you could see Brazil throughout the fight. You know, I mean, her face, she had that JDM skin on. She had that JDM face, the resting JDM face throughout that entire fight. And then she go back to her corner. I mean, and then her corner had the same faces. They all went to Party City. They all got the JDM mask. And they were just all like, dude, everybody, even the cut man was sad. And I think they're supposed to be neutral. It was just like every single round. There was never a moment where it was like, are we tied? Are we doing all right? Do we just need to do that? It was like a Hail Mary every second of the fight for her. She had no chance. And I didn't know till after the fight. You know, maybe some people, maybe you got some relatives out there of Tainara, or, you know, you're from the same hometown or whatever. I didn't know until after the fight that apparently Tainara is on a 12-fight winning streak, which was like, heck yeah. Good for her, man. Like, if Brazil would have went in there and won, and then I hear after the fact, oh, she's on a 15-fight winning streak, man. It's kind of like when you see it's kind of like when do you ever have someone like blow past you? They're going like 97 miles an hour and you're late for work. You know, you're late for work. You're like, man, I bet you if I went that fast, I would get a ticket right now. Then I'm going to get a ticket and I'm going to be late for work. And you see people like that. It's like, how come I never see people like that get pulled over? How come I never see that instant karma? And it was good to see it right here. It was good to see Brazil get what was coming to her. I didn't like that. That's dirty sportswomanship. And hopefully she learns. Hopefully she learns. It's like she didn't do her homework and she didn't realize that she was going up against someone that was already on an 11-0 fight winning streak. As far as Brazil knows, I mean, she could have. Tainara probably has the last 11 fights someone tried to cheap shot her. And Brazil didn't realize she was doing it against the wrong lady. The next fight was, and some of these names I'm going to forget, so I got to keep looking at my phone. Ricky Simon and Adrian Yanez. And I know that there was a lot of drama surrounding this one. And there was a lot of people talking about, you know, how they were upset. Even the commentators were being outspoken about this, being upset about it being a draw and that it should have been a victory for, you know, and I apologize. I cannot call the dude Yanez. I don't know if that's a mistake on his part or his parents or the hospital. I'm going to need you to add the little squiggly thing to the top of your name so I don't look like an idiot. You see? You understand, Yanez? Because if people come into my videos and they see you in the description and the title, I don't think you ever make the title, but in the description, the tags or whatever, and they hear me calling you Yanez, they're going to be like, that dude's an idiot. He don't know how to read. So, Yanez, I'm going to need you to put the little squiggly thing above the N if you want me to throw another Y sound in there for you. All right? Until then, I'm going to call you Yanez. So, we had Simon and Yanez, and during the fight, I was confident that Simon was leading 2-0. And I started to see, you know, they throw up the threads and Twitter, stuff like that on the feed, and you hear the commentators giving their opinions. And I was like, okay, I guess maybe I could wrap my beanie around 1-1. But some people started acting up. Some people got to be contrarians. And you know what? I think that's a word that makes us feel smart in the MMA community. That's a word that I hear people throwing around a lot. It's kind of like a word with like enough syllables that it's contrarian. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I feel like it's kind of a trend in the MMA community that kind of gives you accreditations when you're in the comment sections. But I was like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like people make certain picks or calls or have certain kinds of takes just to make people like, oh, I wonder what made him say that. I wonder where he's coming from with that. Maybe this dude knows something that I don't know. Or maybe the dude is not really watching the fight. Maybe he's just trying to hedge his bet. I don't know. I've done that before, and I had to apologize for it. And I will always feel like I got a little bit of I always feel a little bit dirty about that, I went a little bit hard on the Makhachev and JDM pick, and I was having a little bit too much fun with that, and I said that I was picking JDM, and I never should have done that. But I do want to remind you guys, I am on a tear right now. I'm on a streak. It's a new year, and in case some of you guys don't remember, I picked Gaethje, I picked Volkanovski, I picked Oliveira, I picked Grasso, I picked Adesanya, Pyfer. I picked Strickland, even though I didn't make a video about it, and I was upset. So I know I can't talk about it too much. But anyway, I thought they were doing a little bit too much when people were saying 2-0, and I didn't understand that. So what I think is something that's very interesting that nobody is really talking about, the fight should have been stopped at the end of what I believe was the third round, because I can't really read my handwriting. I believe that the fight should have been stopped there, and that would have been in favor of Yanez. So it's like, okay, however we get there, I know he's kind of a fan favorite. However we got to get there, cool. If you guys were really pushing for 2-zip and then you're just trying to find creative ways to give it to Yanez, I could give it to you if the ref would have done his thing at the end of the third round. And I know I'm not saying anything new here, but there does seem to have been this trend since we've gotten to the Paramount era where it seems like the refs are very hesitant to stop fights lately. And me and Moss from the MMA Holes and from the Moss and Jesse show, we were talking about this the other day, where he was like, you know what? I like when refs give them the chance and they let it go and they let the fight go on. And you know what? I kind of had to correct myself there, or rather, give some clarification, because I definitely don't want to be seen as a dude that promotes early stoppages. My thing was, hey, be consistent, which is kind of stupid to say, because that's never going to happen. That's never, and I believe it's on purpose. I believe it's intentional. I think that's why we don't have open scoring. I think they like to have things vague because it gives them more control over what they really want to happen. But there was like maybe 2, maybe 3 fights during this card where it was like, seems like that definitely could have been stopped. But again, it's not because I'm pushing for an early stoppage. It's not because I don't want to give fighters an opportunity. It's not because I don't want to see the mayhem, because I do. It's just, it gets frustrating when you see other fights where they clearly get what I think everybody would call an early stoppage. Where then in another fight, you're like, dude, that wasn't even close. You let this one go significantly longer. What's happening here? So that's all I was getting at. I would just like the consistency. But above all of that, even above consistency of stoppages, I just wish, let's, I mean, people might die that way, But my whole thing is like, let's go back to like the early stages of the UFC where you leave it up to the corner. Make that dude throw in the towel, or one of the dudes is just straight out incapacitated or faking it really well, like Macee Barber. But not just like because it's the ref's opinion, unless the dude is out. And now you just got to separate him so the dude doesn't get killed. But, I personally thought that Simone was leading 2 rounds to 0 going into the 3rd round. And then, his face got all messed up and everything. Yanez did his thing in the 3rd round and could have got a stoppage. But, I think it's weird because if Yanez really did his thing in the 3rd round, it's like, I thought they don't judge it as an overall fight. What if Simone kind of like barely edged by in the first 2 rounds, just being more active, and then Yanez really beat him up in the 3rd round, and they're like, yeah, well, yes, he was leading in the first 2 rounds, but Yanez beat him up enough. Isn't it supposed to be round by round, not overall? So then it's 2-0, right? But I have a hard time figuring out how people scored even one of those first 2 rounds for Yanez in that fight. And then we end up with the draw. But to complain and act like, it was some kind of robbery and Yanez should have, nah, chale. I think the bigger highlight of that fight is that there needs to be some kind of, my biggest takeaway from that fight is there need to be some kind of consistency across the board as far as how people are going to treat stoppages. And I was talking with Moss about it the other day, and I talked about it in the stream, a couple streams I was doing, that I feel like this was one of, if not the best card of the year. This card was stupid entertaining. And you know what is funny? Because during the actual event, I was doing a lot of talking with the chat. And I was kind of joking about it. How, I was just on a different wavelength that night and I just wanted to talk to the chat. And I think I only called the last 2 fights and I was ignoring so much of the card. And then I went back and watched it the next morning or the morning after that. I can't remember. And I was like, this was a ridiculously good card. But there was some shenanigans. There was some late stoppages. There was some early stoppages. There was some things that looked very WWE. The next fight after that was Stirling and Lopes. And this was one of those other ones where there was a stoppage conversation that was going on. And this one got even weirder because, not only is Dominic Cruz at the commentary booth, we had no nonsense Keith Peterson reffing this. And as far as I'm confirmed, there was at least a little bit of nonsense in this fight. And I thought it was a little bit weird because, Dominic Cruz was going full Dan Hardy in there. I think even DC was saying at a certain point, it's over. This fight is over. Like, what's happening? Like, he was trying to make sure that Keith Peterson could hear him. And it was so comically let go. And look, again, I don't want stoppages. I want fights to end in the UFC due to incapacitations. That's how I want fights to have to end. Incapacitations or we threw the towel in. That's it. I don't want there to be a stoppage based on the whims of whoever's reffing. And so I'm good letting it go and go and go. But it's because there doesn't seem to be any clear-cut parameters. So when we see a stoppage like this, it's like Three Stooges style. It gets to the point where it's comical. Like, where's the hidden cameras? I feel like I'm on Candy Camera right now. I'm getting pranked. And Keith Peterson was letting it go on. It's almost like when a girl is like flirting with some dude to try to like make her ex jealous or something like that. The way that Keith Peterson was handling or not handling, however you want to look at it, that situation was crazy. It was almost like, I swear, dude, I got to watch it again. But I feel like there was moments during that fight where Keith Peterson was watching the action and letting it go on. And Dominic Cruz is over here. I swear, dude, there was moments. Hold on, let me fix my broken microphone stand real quick. I swear there was moments when Keith Peterson was going like this. Watch. I know I tell you guys not to look at me during these because I want you guys to just enjoy and focus on the road or whatever else you're doing. But whenever you're able to, take a peek at this. This is what Keith Peterson was doing. Dominic Cruz is over here, right? And the fight's over here. I swear I saw him doing this. Like, it totally looked like he was giving him those eyes like, don't you wish your fight was ref like this? Don't you wish? It was like, dude, it was like he was trying to rub it in his face. And then there's no way, because we hear fighters talk about this all the time, that they could hear him. They could hear the commentators. And then sometimes they'll speak out and be like, I heard this guy saying this and that, and he's a punk, and why don't he say it to my face or whatever? You know that Keith Peterson had to hear Dominic Cruz. What's going on? I wish I had this much time. What is happening? What is he doing? And he's doing it even more, bro. He's like, oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? I dyed my hair. I lost some weight. He did lose weight. I dyed my hair. I lost some weight. I've been hitting the gym. I got a new perfume. Like, he's doing the whole thing, bro, the whole production. And Dominic Cruz is just sitting there stewing, just living vivaciously through Bruno, just wishing that he had that opportunity. It was crazy, man. And I love it. I'm not coming after Keith Peterson for it. I'm not saying that he's a punk or that he did something. This is entertainment. This is a show, and that dude worked the situation, and he made it entertaining. And Cruz took the bait. This dude is a professional. He's on the microphone. Dude just came from the Men's Warehouse. He ain't in there in his chonies throwing hands anymore. He's supposed to be professional with this three-piece, with his suit that, you know, matching Laura Stanko, in there with the three-piece suit, looking all professional and everything. And he's taking the bait. He's getting filled with rage on live national internet, talking like I mean, he totally lost. You could hear Fitzgerald like, chill out, bro. Like, this isn't what we got an ad read right now. This isn't the right look for us. But I thought that was hilarious. I thought it was interesting, the Navajo Stirling dude. He had some there's almost, I know other people have said this, you know, it might even be his nickname. Is his nickname like Navajo the albino Stirling, or are people just calling him the albino something? Because I know, I'm fully aware I'm not making up something new right here. I'm just trying to, I don't know if it's an actual nickname of his, like that Bruce Buffer would actually say on the mic, or if people are just calling him that. But he kind of seemed like I already forgot the word. What is it? Albino, like Adesanya. Like, he's got some features and stuff, and some of the ways that he moves and fights and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, he seems like he's gonna be a exciting enough dude to watch in the future, especially if they keep matching him up with Keith Peterson. After that, we had Casey O'Neill and Gabriela Fernandez, and I didn't really enjoy this fight. It was a short fight, and I don't really care for Casey O'Neill particularly. Literally the only note that I wrote down for this fight was O'Neill comeback. I was just like, I don't even know what to say about this. What was her name? Fernandez brought absolutely nothing to this fight. It's almost like because people, I don't get it personally. I don't understand why so many people seem to like O'Neill, and the only thing I could think of is like a simp kind of thing. But hey Casey, you will get no sympathy from me, all right? The only thing that I could think of is, because that's how a lot of dudes are in the MMA community. You could root for a lady. There's some dudes in the MMA community, and I know a lot of people like to clown, and there's the memes and all that, but there are some dudes legitimately, unironically, that are like, heck yeah, Amanda Nunes is the GOAT. She's amazing. Okay, there's dudes like that, which is like, okay, whatever, respect. It's all about the sport. But then there's dudes that are like, oh, my favorite fighter is Sage Van Zandt. So it's like there's two different kinds of dudes, you know? I don't understand it with O'Neill, because I said it, again, I'm repeating some stuff. I said it in the Moss and Jesse show, all right? She looks, to me, Casey O'Neill looks like Max Holiday in a wig. And some dudes might like that. I don't know. Some dudes might be into that. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Some people might like that. Just like people think Macee Barber is attractive, you know? I don't see it at all. So that's no disrespect. I'm not going to say this lady is objectively ugly. I'm not trying to come at somebody like that. Everybody likes different things. Some dudes like Max Holiday in a wig. That's your truth that you're living. I'm just saying I don't understand it with Casey because, you know, she's not fighting like Amanda Nunes, and she, you know, she's probably not gonna make a living, you know, selling stuff on OnlyFans like Valentina. So it's just I'm just trying to say, I'm saying all of this to say I don't understand the hype. The way that people go crazy over her. She seems like somewhat abrasive to me and kind of rubs me the wrong way. I think she seems like really cocky and kind of full of herself. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misreading something. But it was annoying to me because I find her to be very unlikable. And they matched her up with a punching bag. And apparently it was after like a year's plus something off. So she comes back and she just gets a lob and, you know, milks it like if she just became champ and acts like it's the biggest deal ever. And I don't know. I know I sound like a hater right now, but hey, O'Neal, be more likable. After that, we had Tybura and Tyrell Fortune. And, you know, it was a little bit like Keith Peterson, this event. It was a little like, here's the thing. See, I can't even remember the dudes' names. We had Navajo, Stirling, and Bruno Lopes, right? But for me, the memorable thing was Keith Peterson and Dominic Cruz. That absolutely stole the show. And same thing with this fight right here with Tybura and Fortune. Bruce Buffer stole the show with his Steve Harvey moment. And then Dana later stole the show by talking about how Bruce Buffer was going to kill himself. He was going to hang himself right after he found out that supposedly Joe Pyfer was going to kill himself once he found out that might garner just enough sympathy to get his girlfriend not to leave him. So it was just interesting timing. But Bruce Buffer, this is, I think, the second time I've ever seen him do this. If you know of any more, let me know. But I think he did this a few years ago. And it's weird to see somebody like Bruce Buffer make a mistake like that. But nobody can go that long in their career. I mean, look at how long the guy's been doing this and just never mess up, right? But then again, it's so weird, man. Like, think about Bruce Buffer's life. At the same time, it's like, bro, I don't think you're like in a cubicle 8 hours a day, you know? Like you have to do the least, bro. You do the least. I mean, I know, look, I know he brings it, and Bruce Buffer is one of those dudes where, like, man, when he's gone, it's gonna be lame, bro. It's not gonna be the same. There's no replacement. It's gonna be messed up when that happens. So I'm not trying to, you know, discredit him or anything, but it's like, bro, you have to do the least, and I bet you're getting paid good, bro. So I don't know. I don't know if it was you know, just like a mental slip. He had a brain pedo, or you know, some people are saying that maybe it was an alternate script, that he went up there with the wrong script, which I think is fascinating because sometimes, and I've been saying this a lot, you know, the partnership that UFC has with Endeavor, TKO, WWE, Paramount, Landman, you know, it's an entertainment company now. And, you know, they don't let us have open scoring. They keep a lot of stuff from us. There's a lot of contractual things in there, which is now calling the UFC an entertainment company. So it's like, are there these, you know, loopholes here and there? Are there these allowances that we're not that familiar with that, you know, would allow them to have alternate scripts when it's a close enough close enough fight that goes to a decision. Maybe depending on how the betting went or whatever, they're able to kind of finagle, you know what, we could do this and that and say this on the scorecard. Do you guys remember? It was a women's fight. I can't remember who it was. But do you guys remember like 4 years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, there was an event and they were literally all commiserating after the fight and they changed the scorecards. Do you remember them holding up the scorecards and erasing and crossing stuff out and changing scorecards after the fight, taking forever, and everyone's like, what is happening? And that was before they were even making cameos with Paramount, before they were even at the Golden Globes and doing guest appearances on Landman. This was even before that era. So I don't know. That's one rumor out there right now, because I think a lot of people just find it hard to believe that Bruce Buffer would do something so unprofessional. Because, you know, let's not be too hard on him because he's only human, but we're just so used to seeing him all the time be so perfect. And I was rooting for Fortune. You know, I'll be honest, I was a sucker. I liked his story. Apparently he had died when he was in college. He literally was legally dead. He was dead during a really bad weight cut, because I don't think it wasn't high school. It was college. He was it was Division II, but he was a national NAACP champion in the Division II. And he was going through a massive weight cut. Because, you know, he's got like kind of like that DC body when DC was still competing. It's crazy when you see DC all sunken in when he's like in the Olympics and stuff. It's crazy, dude. Look like he could be a little point guard. But it's weird, man. Did you ever play basketball in high school or like middle school? And like there's the one kid that's like real chunky, and he's like a little bit taller than you guys. So the coaches make him be center. But I mean, he's only like 5 feet tall, but he's taller than you guys, you know? So it's so messed up. Like that could really mess up someone's trajectory. Like that kid could have been like a point guard in the NBA if they would have started him off from the beginning. He would have been in that AAU and just learning the ropes and stuff, but they made him be a center just because, you know, he was a little heavy. It's messed up. I saw it a lot. But he's got like that heavy, Fortune's got that heavier DC body. And he was cutting like crazy during college, apparently. And he died because there was complications with his weight cut. He came back from the dead, Undertaker style. He was the dead man. It's like, dude, how can I not root for a dead man? This is crazy. And I thought he was piecing Tybura up. To me, it looked like no question that was his fight. And when the ref or Buffer initially called it for Tybura, I mean, I'm so unfazed now. I feel like I've gotten numb to it, what the UFC does. When they called it for Tybura, I was like, yeah, seems about right. But then the moment, if you didn't see the fight, and this you can see. I know they don't do the whole events anymore from start to finish, but if you go to the events in Paramount, this video is not sponsored by Paramount. If you go and watch the fight, they leave all of that in there, and there's just like moments upon moments where we're just trying to find out what's going on. What are they doing? Where'd they go? Is someone going to come in and do an interview? What's happening? And then Buffer has to call Fortune back in. He has to raise his hand. And Tybura knew. He didn't throw up a stink at all. He knew. He even looked kind of confused when he was called the winner and was standing in there waiting for the interview. So it was like, yeah, that makes sense. But that fight totally belonged to Fortune the entire time. There was never a question about it, except in Buffer's mind or on his script, apparently. But that was definitely the highlight of the fight. Stole the show. Hooper was after that. Hooper and Gibson, and man, Hooper. It's almost irritating watching Hooper fight. There's something about the way that Chase Hooper fights. It's almost like if he is a prisoner of war on enemy soil and they're like making him fight for their amusement. There's something, I brought it up, I don't know, months ago maybe. It might have been I think someone said it was a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. I described it, and I think someone said that's what it was. I can't remember. I'll have to ask for your help again. There was a movie that I saw a long time ago, and there was these two dudes, and they were like prisoners somehow. I don't know if they were in the military or what they were doing, but somehow they were caught by the enemy, and they were in enemy territory, and they were like trapped, right? They took them, like they had like a makeshift cage or something, and they brought them out, and they would make them fight each other. And if I remember right, this one scene, they were like, I don't know if they were fighting like on some kind of bamboo sticks or something, or some kind of like ladders laying down flat or so. I don't remember. I feel like there was some kind of like a trellis or something that they were on, and there was like a hole underneath them, and who knows, maybe there was alligators down there or something. I can't remember, but they were two friends. There was these two homies, and they had to fight each other. The dudes were making them fight each other, and I think they had like guns drawn on them. Does that sound familiar to anybody? I don't know what that's from, but they did not want to fight. They were friends, and they were forcing them to fight each other. And that's kind of how I feel every time I watch Chase Hooper fight. It almost seems like he's doing something against his will, or like I don't understand. He has no enthusiasm about being there. There's nothing aggressive about him. He doesn't seem to have a competitor spirit or demeanor or heart or anything about him. It's almost like what you would think a kid would look like at like an all-day BJJ tournament that his dad made him. That his dad was making him his dad made him competed in it. He looks like a kid. I'm just gonna start all over, okay? Because I don't like when I misspeak, and I feel like I don't know how to formulate my sentences, and I might want to use this for a clip later. Chase Hooper looks to me every time when he fights like a kid that, you know, whose dad makes him compete in an all-day BJJ tournament, and he didn't even want to be there. Like, he wanted to play baseball or something like that. He wanted to be in a team sport so he could actually play with his friends and hang out with his friends and go to Pizza Hut afterwards and stuff like that with the team party. But his dad is living vivaciously through him, and he wants him to live out his dreams because his dad met his mom too young, and they had him when they were still teenagers. It's that whole thing. That's how Chase Hooper looks when he gets into the cage. Like, he has no desire to be there. And it comes out in the fight. Now, look, it is cool to me. Somebody asked me the other day, hey, if you were ever a UFC fighter, what kind of music would you come out to? And what would be your victory? Like, how would you celebrate if you won? And I told him I would come out to dead silence. Like how Mike Tyson used to do back in the day. I'd come out to dead silence. No music. Just be like just marching to the cage, just silent. And I wouldn't emote. I wouldn't celebrate. I'd knock the dude out, and I would just be like, you know, like Fedor. I think that's the hardest way to celebrate, the non-celebration. I think that's the way to go. And what the heck? What point was I trying to make? Why was I talking about the way you come into the cage? Hold up. Let me get there. Why was I talking about entrances and the way that a person comes into the cage? Oh, what I was trying to say was Chase Hooper. Now, let me give this to him. You know, saying that he seems like he doesn't want to be there. He you know what the disposition that he has? Chase Hooper has the disposition of that dude, the NBA player, the Jokic. I don't know his first name, something Jokic. And, you know, ironically, maybe the dude always looks unhappy because of the Jokic. I don't think I've ever even heard anybody talk about that. That may be the root cause, no pun intended. So I do think it would be cool if Chase Hooper went in there and he was just like, I don't want to be here. I don't care. I'm disinterested. I actually have a couple horses as well for probably ponies. I have some stuff back home I want to ride as well. And then he wins, right? He chokes the dude out, and then he's like, hey, what's up, DC? Yeah, whatever. When's my next fight? That would be cool. That would be hard right there. That I could get behind. But that's not what happens. He comes into the fight looking disinterested, and he gets beat, right? But I'm not even able to hold that against him in this fight because it wasn't Lance Gibson. It wasn't Lance Gibson that defeated Chase Hooper in this fight. I almost called him Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell kind of seems like he'd be like Chase Hooper's like dirty cousin, you know. He's like that cousin Chase Hooper wasn't allowed to play with, you know. It was not Lance Gibson that defeated Chase Hooper. It was the referee. And I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to try to steal something here. These were Moss's words from the MMA host and also from the Moss and Jesse show. He said that the way that he looked at it, the ref was trying to get in on that action. You know, he was trying to tap in. He was trying to get, he wanted to get to roll. He wanted his opportunity to roll. He got like, over enthusiastic and anxious about it. He's like, let me get in there. Let me get in there. He was getting eager. He thought it was like a rolling session. And I thought that was a funny way to look at it. And I did not know this. Apparently, the ref was so aggressive and enthusiastic about hopping in there that he hurt Lance Gibson. Now, when I first heard it, I was like, what? I thought that was crazy. It would be insane if he like dislocated his shoulder or something like that. I guess he gave him some kind of scratch. But still, it's hilarious. And let's milk it. I guess he jumped in there. He just dove into the action. And it was so much so that he scratched up Lance Gibson. Now, that sequence, the stoppage, was very premature. Very premature. Chase Hooper. Am I the only one? That has to be a thing, right? There's no way I'm the only one. Chase Hooper. Now, I will admit it all day. If I'm watching a fight, I just like to call out what I see. I'm an MMA truther. So if I'm watching a fight and I see someone go totally limp and they're all over the place and they're wobbling, they're done, I'll be like, bro, what the heck? This dude, like there will be fights when a fight was allowed to go on and I'm like, what the heck? This dude was out. I think there's actually one coming up here somewhere. I got to say, I don't remember. The dude was out. He actually was out and then he came back awake. That might have happened. That actually might have happened during the... That might have been one of the things that happened during the Bruno fight, now that I think of it. Bruno and... what the heck was that dude's name? Bruno and Stirling. There was one fight where somebody, like, he was out. His eyes were, like, gone. They were out, and he was dazed. And then, boom, he got hit back awake. He got hit with that alarm clock. Boom, right on the chin. And, there's times where I'll see that, and I'll call it out. I'm like, this is crazy. And I'd be more than happy. I would be more than happy if Hooper was out to be like, yeah, what is this dude doing? Because it would go with what I was just saying. The dude looks like he doesn't want to be there. He looks like he's being forced to be there. But in this case, when you watch the sequence, as I did over and over again, you see that he's posting. He's putting his hands up. He's not going limp. He's not falling face down in the canvas. He's posting. He's like, hold up, let me get my balance. I'm going to step over. I'm going to grab this leg. I'm going to look over this way. I'm still going to go for it. He was moving forward. He was progressing. There wasn't a moment where he's like this, where he's out of it, where his eyes are gone. Not a moment. I mean, how could this fight have gone if Keith Peterson was in there? What could have went differently? Imagine if Keith Peterson was in here and then this dude, I don't even know his name, that was reffing, was in the Bruno fight. It totally changes people's lives. Totally changes the trajectory of these fighters' lives. And it's messed up that it's not across the board. We're going to have to start having like you know how they make, like, not only is there AI, but you know how they're making AI robots now, like physical, like with limbs and stuff. You know how they're making them for very specific things? Like they're making some so that you could have a house, like a maid or whatever. They're having other ones so that you could have a girlfriend. Or I think there's an attachment. You could make it a boyfriend as well. And now we should make one where it's a referee. It's a UFC referee or MMA, across the board, so that it is 100%, black and white, consistent across the board. There's no human emotions. There's no opinions. There's no second guesses. That's what we need. We need to throw the Terminator in there. And that would eliminate all these shenanigans. But it was way too early. And again, I got nothing invested. I don't care about Chase Hooper. If anything, I'd like to say, yeah, he messed up. He lost. That's his fault. He should care more about fighting. Or, have a conversation with his dad or whatever. I don't know who's making him fight. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's his wife. Maybe she's like, no. I don't want you to get a desk job. And then because there's so many women in the office and they're going to like your curly hair and you got these feminine sensibilities about you and they're going to think this dude has to be emotionally available. There's no way that this dude is not emotionally available. I don't know. I'm trying to think of who could it be that's making him fight? He's an adult now. Who could it be? I mean, when you're a kid, your parents tell you what to do. When you're an adult, your wife tells you what to do, or she tries to tell you what to do. But, you don't have to listen. But then if you don't listen, so it's, I don't know who's making him fight. But he should not have lost that fight in the way that he did. Now, that being said, nothing at all against Lance Gibson. I felt bad for the dude. When they were booing him, he's like, dude, I'm from here. My basketball jersey's hung in the rafters at a high school here in Seattle. Like I'm from here. What do you guys? I'm more from here than that dude. And he seemed like a cool guy, So it's who knows? He might have ended up winning the fight anyway. Hooper might have won it. Who knows? We'll never know. But the reffing, it became very, very apparent. And this is what people do. Like in politics or like in whatever, when they really want to try to put people's chanclas to the fire and enforce some kind of change, the angle they always use is they say, this is dangerous. We got to keep this out of this or that out of that because it's gotten to the point where now it's dangerous. That's the word that they always use to make it seem like, oh, it's dangerous now? Now we got to... It's got the reffing, the inconsistency in the reffing has finally gotten to the point where it is dangerous now because now we got dudes getting hurt by the refs. This dude's all scratched up. He's probably going to have to get a tetanus shot. That ref came at him like Cujo. We don't know what he has. After that, we have Bahamondes and Musayev. And man, this was a dirty situation. Which one is the one that lost is Nacho, right? Yeah. So we have Bahamondes and Musayev. Musayev, the way that he was holding on to that fence, it was unbelievable. And I don't want to do it again on here. Look, I'm gonna hold something back. You're going to have to go and watch the Moss and Jesse show if you want to see it. But it reminded me of back in the day when the Ultimate Warrior used to grab on the top rope. Remember that thing he would do where he would shake on the top rope? That's like what Musayev was doing on the cage. I've never seen anyone call cage grabs. I've never seen anybody call cage grabs and even like toes in the cage like me. I have never. I don't care what MMA, YouTube talking heads or MMA journal, UFC analysts. I have never seen anybody talk about working the cage as much as I have. That's a pet peeve of mine. I can't stand it. I think it's dirty. Now, if there was no rules, cool. Grab the cage. Eye poke. Hit him in the groin. Bite him. I'd love it. That'd be entertaining. But there are rules. And, if Bahamondes is afraid to do it because he doesn't want to get points taken away, then I don't want to see Musayev doing it either. In all the years I've been doing this, which is a decade this year, and all the grabs that I've called and all that cage stuff that I've seen, I have never, ever seen one this atrocious. And, I mean, I watched Sean O'Malley versus Peter Yan, right? That was some of the most, that was insane. This puts that to shame. This makes Sean O'Malley blush. It was unbelievable. He was going to get massively suplexed and put into a bad position. But because he did this, he ended up in a better position and he got the elbow that busted the guy's face up and changed the entire trajectory of the fight. And right after he busted him open with that, he landed a solid, very intentional, because there was nothing else accommodating it. It's not like he was trying to land something else and his head followed, or like Bahamundes was coming forward with his head. He was totally leading with it and with only it. Threw down a massive headbutt. Dirty, disgusting cheater. He should have been disqualified. He should have lost multiple points. That was one of the most disgusting, dirty fights I've ever seen. And throughout that fight, because of Musayev's actions, Bahamondes left a bunch of blood on that canvas, which I think has a lot to do with the fight that followed. We had Nelson and Terrance Mckinney. That fight was over very, very quickly, right? And some people say it looks staged, it looks set up, fake, however you want to spin it, because the kick that Mckinney threw that put Nelson down, it didn't land. It's what we would refer to as a insignificant strike. Now, did it touch Nelson? Yes, but it touched him right here in the arm shoulder region, whatever. I think it was closer this way. And I've said it a bunch. I've said it on the stream. I've said it in another channel. I do not believe 1% that Mckinney's kick is what knocked down Nelson. What you could see, clear as day, just like it was the ref that beat Hooper, not Gibson. In this case, what's his name? Nelson slipped on that pool of blood that nobody was able to soak out of the canvas. Totally, absolutely, hopelessly, helplessly slipped on a big pool of blood. And he went down. And Terrance Mckinney landed a ton of hammer fists. Again, on the arms, on the guard, on the forearms of Nelson. Over and over and over again. Except I think 2 of them, which landed on the mastodon, right there at the base between the head and the spine, right there on the mastodon. Serial gain style. That's all it took. You could see Mckinney very pacifically, strategically back him up all the way to that pool of blood until he slipped, and then he hit him on his guard, not getting through whatsoever until he got right there at the base of the neck. 2 dirty blows, and they called the fight, called the stoppage. And I'm not going to go too hard on this because, there are some Canadians that have done great things for us. But I personally don't think that Canadians should fight. I think they're too docile. I think they're too passive, which is nice. That's a wonderful quality. We need good people like that in the world, but I don't think they belong in the cage. I don't think that Nelson brought anything to this fight with him. He should have brought a pair of shoes. Maybe in that case, he wouldn't, some swimming shoes. He wouldn't have slipped on the blood. I give nothing to Terrance Mckinney for this fight. After that, we have Malik and Balgaroy. And what I had, I was very complimentary toward Balgaroy in this fight. I think he fights a lot like Pereira. I think if you know how sometimes they do those videos on YouTube where they make it like the dude looks like a silhouette, and they're like, who is this fighter? And you got to name him just by like the way he moves and stuff. The dude moves so much like Pereira. He even has a similar body shape, but I think he moves better. I think he moves even more fluid than Pereira. I've always thought that Pereira has a very glitchy looking style. And I think he really rides off of his aura and intimidation and power. And because of that, people are constantly in a frigid state. and they fight with a lot of hesitation. And the way that they lock up, it makes it easy for him to counter. Now, look, I know it's one of the most idiotic sounding things at this point in time right now in MMA history to make it sound like Pereira's not a good fighter. I mean, he's on the cusp of fighting for champ, which I don't believe he's going to get because of his fighting style. He has made himself be the boogeyman, the scary dude, the intimidator, the big right hand. And again, I think that's what has gotten him as far as it has. I think if he fought like Balagroy and he was smoother and he used a higher IQ, because Pereira gets hit a lot, in my opinion, Roundtree 100% had him beat. I think he clearly, handily won the first 3 rounds against him. Roundtree had him beat. And Roundtree got impatient and threw away his game plan and started fighting with ego. Roundtree should have and would have beat him. The way that you see Pereira in that fight is an indicator of not having the highest IQ. He shouldn't have looked that way against Roundtree if he is the fighter that everybody seems to make him out to be. He is scary to people, he is intimidating, and he has that power both in his hands and in his kicks, and that's what does it for him. But he's not fluid, and I don't think he has the IQ of this Balagroy guy. If Pereira did, if he was as fluid and moved the way that he did, much lighter on his toes, and utilized a higher fight IQ, then I think he would have a chance against Gane. I also want to bring up that Mansour as well. Malik is another individual that was saved by the bell, but I don't want to go too hard on that because it was very close and it was so perfectly timed. The bell ringing and when the ref could have ended it was so perfectly timed that if he would have ended it right before the bell or whatever, it would have probably definitely seemed like an early stoppage. So I'm not gonna go too hard on that one. But I think Balagroy is gonna be a dude that's very dominant and very scary. I think he's going to be able to put it together even better than Pereira. Julian Erosa versus Douglas. There's nothing to say about this fight. Erosa, more like erosion. He's in a state of erosion. He's going backwards. Fighters don't get better with age unless they're Alexander Volkanovski. This is one of those cases where they are throwing him to the up-and-comer to make a name for himself, Adesanya style. And, there's nothing much more to say about that. If Julian wants to keep showing up and putting food on the table, I'm not going to hate on him for that. You come, clock in, punch in, do your thing, go home. That's respectable. Chiesa went in there, and you know what? I thought that was a little bit disturbing, the way that went down. I think it's crazy, man, the way that they disrespected Niko Price. I'm trying to figure out how I want to approach this, how I want to order the events here. So Chiesa came in, and look, this I think is an unfortunate situation. I think it's very unfortunate when you got two dudes that have been around retiring, not only on the same night, the same fight. It'd be nice. It would be nice to give the dude storybook endings, to not necessarily give him a lob, but at least try somehow to make it a possibility for both of these dudes to at least have a chance of having some kind of win, and give each of them someone that's not retiring, But it makes sense to me that the UFC would think, why in the world? You want me to risk my belt? Why in the world would they give two dudes retiring even the possibility, even 0.01%, to ruin an up-and-comer when this dude's leaving? That would just make their up-and-comer just worthless. It would make it look so bad. Someone they're trying to build up, someone they just brought in, someone who's trying to get into the rankings, and then they get beat by someone that's dipping out anyway. That would look terrible. So I get the UFC's perspective. So anyway, they get in there. Chiesa does his thing, whatever. I'm not even going to get into was it fake, was it rigged, whatever, because it's not like Niko Price was, Khabib Nurmagomedov or something like that. So it's like, you know what? It could have went either way. Cool, whatever. What I didn't like was right after the fight. Well, when else is it going to happen? After the fight, they did the video package. And, whoever that editor was, man, I need to get in touch with that dude. Maybe he could edit my videos. Whoever that dude was, he made Michael Chiesa look like he's on the MMA Mount Rushmore. He made Michael Chiesa look undefeated, undisputed. He made Michael Chiesa look like the GOAT. He made Michael Chiesa look like every fighter's favorite fighter. It was crazy. And they went through this whole thing, which, you know what? Cool. Let me clarify that. Hey, after all I said, cool. Let a dude retire and not feel bad about it. Let a dude retire and, if your niece sang the Star Spangled Banner at the local football game and she sounded like that, tell her she say good job when she's done, right? And then try in every subtle way that you can to steer her from ever singing ever again, right? Because it's over. It's over now. Why harp on it? So cool. He's retiring. Things didn't really go the way that he wished they would have in his career. If you're able to make him feel good about it and he could sleep at night and live the rest of his life at peace, cool. Make his wife feel proud, cool. What I did not think was cool was that after that, where's Niko? They didn't even let him say anything. They gave him zero time on the mic. And I've said this before. It's like when I think it was the very first Paramount card, and I think it was when they inducted Dominic Cruz into the Hall of Fame, and they totally snubbed. I can't remember which fighter it was. I think it was some kind of like Dagestanian fighter, Chechnyan or something. And somebody had a victory, and they're like, yeah, get out. We got to do this Hall of Fame thing now. And I was like, what the heck? So it's like, okay, so you guys just pick and choose, huh? And Chiesa did his whole thing. They did the video. He said his piece. He left. And then they moved on. It's like, what happened with Price? And that seemed really dirty. Surely there was something that he would like to have shared. And I didn't know until today, when I was kind of looking things up and trying to figure out, make sure what I was going to talk about. Niko Price was telling this story, and I don't know who he was talking to, but you know how they do that. They make the rounds, they do the interviews, and then everyone writes articles about the interviews. And Niko Price said that he took off his gloves, like you do when you're going to retire most of the time. He said he took off his gloves, and he put them down in the center of the canvas. He was trying to do the whole thing. And, not only, they didn't show him do that. They didn't show the gloves. They didn't focus on it. They didn't say anything. To make it even worse, though, they had Michael Chiesa come over. And I didn't know this. I don't think they showed this part in the production so much that we would have noticed this. Apparently, Niko Price put his gloves down in the center of the cage. And then somebody, the cameraman, whoever, they had Chiesa come over and take a photo with the gloves on the canvas like if they were his. And Niko's like, hey, take a look at it. Chiesa still had gloves on his hands. He's like, those weren't his gloves. He had them on his hands. Those are my gloves. So I don't know exactly the sequence because I'd have to go back and watch it and be like, wait a minute, where did this happen? Because then there was a point where Chiesa did take off his gloves and did put them down. And it was kind of weird. He put them down. He kind of took a picture with them. He kind of looked at him. He was all emotional. And then he picked up. No. He was like putting his head on him or kissing him or something. And then he picked them up and left. It's like, I don't know if I ever saw that part. They pick them up after they put them down and leave with them. I don't think everybody does that. He probably wanted to try to make some money and sell them on eBay or something. But I feel like a lot of fighters leave them there. But apparently Niko Price had to watch Chiesa take a photo with his gloves, and then they didn't even interview him. And that's messed up. And you know what it reminded me of? I hope, I'm going to be like this. I hope, the way I look at it, I'm going to start doing it like that. It's going to just get more and more comical. Here's the way I look at it. A lot of people leave the UFC, and it's like, man, they don't know how to leave it, bro. They leave the UFC, and then they're still trying to call it for the booty calls, They'll leave the UFC, and then they're still texting the UFC, hey, you what? And they don't know how to, like, they end up like, Justin Poirier on the mic, Chiesa on the mic, Anthony Smith on the mic, like all these dudes. There's too many to even name right now. I had to do a whole other video. Episode 4, all I'm gonna be doing is talking about. I'm just gonna be naming all the guys that left and they're still there on the mic. And you know what I do like about this for Niko Price? I think not only the UFC, but you know how it seems, as somebody that has just observed the sport for so long, the sport of MMA, and especially the UFC, seems to be a very unforgiving place. Just brutally unforgiving. Just doesn't give back. And you pour everything into it. The blood, sweat, and fears, your heart and soul, just everything. So many sacrifices. And I mean, competitive with Old Testament times, even, like, ridiculous amount of sacrifices. And you're missing stuff. You're missing birthdays. You're missing holidays. And Niko Price even said in this article that his wife was even like, yeah, can you stop already? And that he felt like he was living a selfish type of lifestyle, just all this time alone, all this time on my own without my family, training and doing all this stuff, pursuing fights. And the reason I like this for Niko Price is, like, you know what? It's the perfect cap on this unforgiving thing that never loved you back, Like, it's like, there was a while back where I was like, you know what? I'm going to start eating healthy. I'm going to stop eating fast food. I'm going to stop going out all the time. And what, I mean, when I do it, I really can't get away with it that much. Marilena gets upset. But, I was like, I'm gonna start eating clean. I'm not gonna be doing this all time, French fries and fried, spicy chicken sandwiches and hamburgers. I need to do better, right? And then I was like, I'm gonna go have one last run. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna get some food and I'm gonna overdo it a little bit, and I'm gonna just have one last, blowout, and then I'm gonna be healthy after that. It was like my fast food bachelor party, And I went and I got food. And I started eating the fries. And they were cold. And I was like, okay. Unfortunately, that's kind of a common thing. You kind of learn to live with that. It's kind of become a thing with fast food restaurants where when you actually get fresh fries, it's like, ooh, oh, okay. A good deal of the time they're not fresh. So then I was like, all right, I'll take a bite of my spicy chicken sandwich. And it was not fresh. Now, I used to work at Jack in the Box. And I know what it looks like and what it tastes like when there is a patty of chicken that's been out for longer than you'd want it to be. And you know what they do? And I've seen and I've heard firsthand the manager telling people to do this. There will be a chicken patty that's just sitting there for a while. Who knows how long? I don't know. Sometimes they make them just in case, hoping someone will come through and order it during the rush, and it's already there, it's ready to go, or somebody changes their mind or whatever, and it'll be sitting there maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. They'll grab it with the spatula and they'll put it back in the fryer. They'll refry it to give it the fresh veneer, and then they'll serve that to you. I know what that tastes like and what it looks like. It's not good. It doesn't fool anybody. So I got an old chicken sandwich. Now, for me, it's hard to even really enjoy a hamburger when my fries are not, when they're cold. It's got to go together. The burger, to be honest, I don't remember. I'm wanting to make it up in my beanie right now. Like maybe it was a little mushy. Maybe it was like, I don't know. Maybe it was okay. I can tell you, I ordered a Coke. They gave me a Diet Coke. It was as if somebody was playing this ultimate prank on me. Like if they knew what I was doing and this was my last moment to really enjoy this food and go out with the big bang, and they just tried to spoil it for me. And I'm just thinking of like some punk high school kid doing this, hating their job, not even wanting to be there, probably just smoking, just vaping right there in the bag, doesn't even want to do what they're supposed to do, just chucks the old stuff into the bag, and just the whole experience, the whole package. Probably was wiping his butt cheeks, didn't even wash his hands, And I remember I was sitting there and I was like, this is the best case scenario. This will be a good reminder for me that this ain't where it's at. That it's like, hey, bro, hey, Grandmaster, trust me, you don't even want the fast food. This will be your last reminder. It's nasty, right? Can't even trust the people working there. Who knows? They're probably not even wearing gloves. And you know what? They're kind of stupid. Because even when they do wear gloves, they come out to the window and they're handling your cash and your change in those same gloves. I bet they're going to the bathroom with those gloves on too. And I was like, you know what? That'll stick with me. Now I'm not even going to want fast food anymore. And that's how I feel. By the way, that wore off and I've started eating fast food again and it's not good. I got to stop. But at least, for that moment in time, I kind of feel like that's what's happening with Niko Price. Where it's like, you know what? Thank you, UFC. Thank you for that one big last gesture of disrespect. Just showing me exactly how important I was to you. Now, I don't need to have those sentimental feelings. Now, I don't need to look back. Should I have given it 5 more fights? Should I have tried it again? Should I went for one last run? Should I have begged them to do a BMF title for my division? Should I have gone and been a commentator? No, he'll be like, chale, bunch of dirtbags. I don't want to have nothing to do with them. Maybe I'll call Ronda Rousey. Maybe I'll go fight over there. I don't know. But UFC, chale. And you know what? There you go, Niko. I'm glad they snubbed you. I'm glad they disrespected you. And I hope that you find it possible to look at it the same way, bro, so you can move on happily with your life into the next chapter. I want to touch on Alexa Grasso and the very first KO submission in UFC history. Very first case. And I was upset when I saw on the Wikipedia that it said submission. And I went in there and I made edits. It's the first KO submission ever in MMA. And I want to say congratulations because, I picked her. And there were a lot of people disrespecting her because there's a bunch of Macee Barber simps. And again, I don't understand it. I don't want to be in the place. I don't want to be the dude that's known for, highlighting women and talking about how ugly they are. Like that's not the guy that I want to be, right? But when it's one of those things where like everybody hypes up a movie and they hype it up and they don't stop talking about it. It's the best and then you see it and it's like, that's what you guys wouldn't stop talking about? And it's like, it's almost your fault. Like it's your guys' fault. Like you overdid it. You oversold it. You hyped it up too much. And you did it to the point where it makes normal people that aren't simping out just jump ship and be like, oh, what's wrong with you guys? Like, I don't get it. And there may be something else inherent. I don't know. Like maybe like a O'Neal type of situation. I thought it was weird. Macee and Casey, like there's something going on there. I don't know. I'm not a Barber fan. I don't get it. There's something about her that seems very entitled to me. And I said it before. She kind of, in that way, only in that way really, reminds me of Ronda Rousey. There's something kind of spoiled and entitled about her. And then she does seem to be far more concerned with appearances than the fight game. And it's not a good mix. I think she's getting the wrong kind of attention. And I think it's manifesting poorly. And it was a ridiculous, amazing finish from Grasso. I'm very happy. I root for her always. Grasso is the person. I didn't even realize it till just now. Grasso is the one that got me away from rooting for Valentina. I don't think I ever rooted against Valentina. I was always a Valentina fan until Grasso. And I just saw it. I picked Grasso against Valentina. And I liked her style. I liked her presentation. I think she is a wonderful winner and a gracious loser. I think she's a great sport. And I think she's an easy person to root for. And it has nothing to do with her feet. And I was just very happy to see that. I think Macee needs to focus on fighting and not customizing herself. You know what I'm saying? And I 100% believe that she faked it. And I know that might make some people mad. I think there are characteristics of people. I feel like I've been alive and I've been around long enough, especially watching UFC, to be like, oh, this is what a person looks like when that happens. This is what a person acts like when that happens. This, like, you learn to identify and read certain situations. And, just like we read it with Tomas Aspinall, where, oh yeah, dudes get poked all the time. That's not good. Oh, Serial Gain is a dirty, rotten cheater. We agree. Shouldn't happen. You should take your time. You should pause the fight. This guy's a cheater. This shouldn't happen at this level. Championship fight. Big stakes. Oh, wait a minute. Huh? What? Wait. Come again? You want to stop and give up even before you got to 60 seconds? Bro, you have 5 minutes. Huh? What? Are you sure? Huh? Like, okay. All throughout, like, UFC history. No, I'm fine. No, stop. Get out of here. No, I don't want to see the doctor. I'm ready to go. Let's go. Like, we already know what to expect. And when you see a glitch in the matrix, you go, hold up. What's up with this person? We've never seen anybody do what Macee Barber did except in a movie. That's where I've seen it. And Paramount or UFC or whoever chose to shoot it like a movie. It was very cinematic. It almost felt symbolic. But I think she was faking it. I think we've all seen, because of the types of content that we consume, I think we've all seen enough what those moments look like. That's why we all called out Aljamain Sterling Silver on it. Because it's like, bro, you overdid it. We've seen people get knocked out and TKO'd and get dazed and confused. That's not what it looks like. You look like a guy that's trying to look like that. And I feel like that's what Macee did. And I feel like people are afraid to say it because she's a woman. And they don't want to seem like bullies. And they don't want to seem insensitive. And they think she's hot. And they think they have a chance with her. I think she faked it. I think she's very, very much about appearances. And what she did, I feel like, was an ego move. She was laying there like one of those scenes like, how does the song go? How come I can't think of it right now? Where he goes, I bet you're wondering how I got here. She's laying there, probably half contemplating, oh my gosh, how should I play this? What do I do from here? And half like, I'm going to act like this was way more serious and there was some kind of underlying thing and it was way worse because I don't want to just make it seem like I just got caught in a bad position and lost. I'm going to make it seem like I'm dead or something. I think she cares very much about appearances, and I think it was the ego. I think it was the ego moment. After that was Adesanya and Pyfer. And I was saying leading up to the fight, and I kept telling people, I don't want to seem like one of those dudes. I don't want to be like one of those body language and facial expression analyst breakdown kind of, because I know that seems real like, okay, bro, what are you, a psychologist? I didn't want to go down that path. But again, like people, you know what? You guys don't give yourselves enough credit. Just be observers. The way I was looking at it, we watch things over and over again. We watch press conferences and the scrums, media days. We watch these things over and over again. And at a certain point, it's the same people. We see the same people over and over and over again. You start to learn their tendencies, their habits, their expressions, their body language, their mannerisms. We start to learn these things. It's just like when it's one of your friends. If they're acting different one day, if they're acting funny, if they have different body language and they got a different look on their face, hey, what's wrong with you? Why are you acting weird? What happened? We watch these fighters all the time. We get to learn a lot about them. And we see them when they're in a certain mindset and when they're in a different mindset. We see them when they're on the trajectory to win and to lose. And we've seen Adesanya when he was in a certain mindset where he was aggressive and intentional and enthusiastic and he was about to win. And we've also seen him when he was kind of downtrodden and discouraged and disheartened and probably not fully in it. And I saw that immediately. And I was telling everybody, he looks resigned. He looks like he's resigned to the thought of losing, that it's a foregone conclusion. It's a formality. He knows what the UFC is doing to him. He's accepted it, whatever. I was saying that repeatedly. And they were just talking about, yeah, but he has these kinds of moves. And do you remember when he did this to that guy? And think about his fighting style. And I'm like, bro, none of that. I mean, it's just like anything else. It's just like when you gotta go pee. It's just like when you lift up your coffee mug. What do all these things stem from? From brain activity. Your brain, your mind is what tells things to do things. And if this isn't firing correctly, nothing else is going to. So you could talk about his question mark kick. You could talk about his stance switches or whatever it is that he does. None of that is going to be right if this ain't right. And for those of you listeners, I'm pointing to my beanie. That's just what it is. And you could tell this wasn't right. And Adesanya is one of those dudes like Conor McGregor, like Ronda Rousey, where he had this aura thing about him. He had this thing of like, this air of like invincibility and immortality where it was like, the dude can't lose. And once that is cracked, they fall to pieces. Now, something I got to respect about someone like Max Holloway, dude is resilient. He will lose a fight and then be like, yeah, it wasn't my night. He was a better guy. Yeah, let's do it again. We're going to run it back. We're going to find out the next Saturday night. It's like, wow, are you even sad? Other people like Adesanya, once that illusion is cracked, it's like, who am I? That was my identity. I was this unbeatable force. I'm not supposed to lose. I don't know who I am anymore. You have this crisis. And he's just, as soon as I saw him doing the interviews, I was like, oh, he's checked out. And that was just not enough for some people. Oh, that's lame. That's all you're going to base it off of? Oh, this? Again, I'm pointing to my beanie. Yeah, it wasn't there. Pyfer was determined, motivated, trying to get his lady back. Like, he had all, like, the perfect recipe. Adesanya was like, nah. And then he steps into the cage. And now, look. Nobody's perfect. I'm not saying that I'm like super shredded right now. Am I on my way there? Absolutely. It's looking good. But Adesanya came into the fight looking more pudgy than I've ever seen him. He was looking pudgier than when he faced Jan Blachowicz. he had the little muffin hanging over. And it was like, whoa, dude. The mentality combined with that, being out of shape like that. Now, I don't know if that's what his body does when he doesn't got that gyno flowing. But as soon as I saw him when they were about to do the introductions, I was like, oh, dang. This is another thing. He's just stacking bad stuff on top of each other. He's not ready mentally or physically. And then we got to the fight, and he was doing his thing. And he looked like vintage Adesanya. He's doing the leg kicks. Looks like he's on his way to immobilizing the dude, sticking and moving. And, it was, for people rooting for him, it looked promising. I understand that. But when we get to the second round, you can't help but think. You have to. You're either going to utilize full context or you're not. By the time we get to the second round and the way things happen, you have to come to the conclusion, Pyfer was downloading. He was doing what Gaethje did with Pimblett. How does his punches feel? Can I take them? And then just like Gaethje said, and Pyfer said the same thing, I could take these. So then he felt very comfortable going toe-to-toe and landing and taking one to give one, just like Gaethje did. And Gaethje made me nervous against Pimblett because he was taking some. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, I could take him. I knew I could take him, so I was letting him do it. There was moments in round 2 where Adesanya was in the pocket with Pyfer because, again, Pyfer was more confident by that point, comfortable being there in the pocket because he knew, one, I could take his shots all night in the pocket. I'm not afraid of him. And two, if we're right here in the pocket, he can't hit me with that question mark kick or the leg kicks. He's out of range. This is perfect. So when they were in that pocket, there was moments where Adesanya would land here and there, and he would start to go off the cage kind of like rope-a-dope style. And I was like, I remember when he did this with Pereira. Is he playing possum right now? Is he faking it? Because Adesanya was doing this thing where he was kind of looking like he was feeling sluggish. And I remember that's something that he did similar with Pereira, where he was kind of playing the part. And then, boom, he exploded. And I thought, Pyfer, don't be an idiot. Because Pyfer doesn't seem to have a high fight IQ. He has some power. He does not, we came out of that fight with, I picked Pyfer, but we come out of that fight me thinking I don't think he's really going to be a challenger. He's got a lot of work to do if he's ever going to get there. He's a headhunter. He's a headhunter that doesn't protect his legs. And I thought Adesanya might have been playing possum for a moment. And then Pyfer took him down. And I was like, there was no resistance whatsoever to that takedown. Adesanya is out of it. He wasn't prepared. He wasn't trying to stuff it. He wasn't getting in a good position. He really was just winded and wobbly and completely helpless against any kind of a takedown. And then when he went down, he was making that weird face. That weird sensual looking face. And I was like, oh snap. Pyfer hit the erotic artery. Because Adesanya was acting weird, bro. He was on that. He was doing that R. Kelly face. It was a little creepy. And then people were saying that, he broke his nose. Pyfer cracked him in the nose, which makes sense. But it was a wrap from there. He put him on his stomach on the canvas. And you know what was really weird? And some people, it might lead some people to say, was that fake? Are they just taunting us at this point? I have no explanation for it. When Adesanya was on his stomach and Pyfer was on top, just raining blows down, Adesanya's legs were going like this. Can you visualize, we've seen it. I think Stephanie or DJ does it on the Full House, the intro credits. That visual, when a girl, you've seen it in the movies, on TV, when a girl's on the phone and she's laying on her stomach on the phone and she's going like this with her legs, with their feet. You know what I'm talking about? Where they're kicking their feet, la 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 la. Adesanya was doing that. He did that for the last 10 seconds of the fight. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being in a fight on your stomach, there's a dude on top of your back just socking you in the temples, right? Is there any angle from which you would think you would feel the necessity to go like this with your legs? He wasn't trying to push off. He wasn't trying to kick up. He wasn't trying to get to a knee and brace himself. He was literally just... Can you think of any circumstance in which you would ever be in that position? Instead of trying to use your hands and get push up, use your knee, flip out of there, turn around, get your elbow to get a good angle, you're just going like this with your feetsies, your little footsies. I could like see him like on a phone, like dangling like the cord, you know. I've never seen anything like it. If you do not remember this, you gotta go back and watch this moment. It was unreal. I can't think of any logical reason why anybody in a fight in that situation would expend any type of energy to just go like this with their legs. And it wasn't in a frantic, frenzy sort of way. It was like, la, 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 la. It was weird. It was very weird. And if someone has an explanation for it, please let me know. I mean, we've come to the end of the event. We're at 1:30. I went way too long. Most of you are probably asleep by now. And if you are, then I guess my job here is done. Can you do me a favor? I would think if you're one of the people out there that made it this far, that you would be cool enough to leave a comment and let me know that you made it this far. I cannot tell you how much it would mean to me if you actually told me that, because staying till the end of a video, especially of this length, is one of the biggest, most significant things you could do on YouTube. YouTube sees that and takes it into account. If you actually, and look, I know I'm not so stupid, and I don't think you're that stupid. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. I'm not trying to manipulate you into leaving a comment. I just want to know that someone stayed that long. And the only way for you to do that is to comment. Leave 2 comments. Leave 2 comments so you don't think I'm trying to manipulate you. Leave 1 to let me know how long you stayed, and then leave another one just to say something random. But if you stayed this long, please let me know. That would just really be encouraging to me, to let me know that people are doing that, and that I'm not an idiot for sitting here and recording these when I could have been doing something else. I really can't tell you how important that is, because I really, like, time is crucial. And there's other things I could be trying to work on. I could be trying to work on my movie. I could be clipping shorts. I could be trying to make something else. Please let me know that it's worth making these. Being a lurker kind of hurts me on these videos, to be honest with you, as we get started out. It'd be really nice to hear your feedback on these and let the algorithm know you're out there. Anyway, thank you for being here. Let me know how you feel down below about any of my takes. Let me know if you're a Macee Barber simp. And I'll talk at you next time for episode 4.